Okay, as you can see here we have three main components for the gun safe lighting kit, I guess you could call it. First we have our power supply, which it's basically AC to DC current, 12 volt. Pretty simple. I'm going to try to link all this in the video description so you guys can get it and make your own. So again, this is our power supply for the LEDs. This is the set of LEDs. It's 16.4 foot. I actually got the double. Instead of 300 LEDs in the 16 foot, there's 600. So there's a lot more LEDs on the strip than a normal one. And it actually recommends for 400, it recommends, or for 600 LEDs, it recommends a 45 watt power supply, but I'm not going to be using all 16 foot, so I don't need a bigger power supply. So that's for that. They're cool white, which is like a really bright white color, like a sterile white almost. And the third component is this, which is a magnet switch. So the idea behind this is every time I open the gun safe, the circuit's basically going to be left, when the two magnets come together, the circuit's going to be closed on the ground wire. So it won't give any power to the LEDs, but when the magnet separates, it's going to open the circuit and allow the lights to turn on basically when the safe is opened. I have the other magnet. It doesn't have any wires or anything attached to it. It's already on the safe because I spent probably an hour trying to position these two to mate up. So the other one's on the safe. I'll show you that later. This is just the one I have to solder. So basically you start by burying your ends on this wire, and you're going to unravel your LEDs, which this might take a minute. There's a lot of them on here. Almost done. Okay. Then you have your bare wire ends here. Here are your bare wire ends. I'm going to try and zoom you in a little bit so you can see how all this works real quick. So let me just put this down. Okay. Hopefully our soldering iron's a little hotter now to go ahead and melt this. Again, red wire from power supply to red wire of LCDs, or LEDs, sorry. And, I mean, I'm no expert solderer. It's pretty simple though. I know with these tiny wires, you want to try to get the solder melted as quick as possible. So I'm going to try to do that, and hopefully it works. There we go. Just like that. That wire's pretty well coated right there. Clean off this soldering iron real quick. Give it one quick pass underneath. Okay, looks good. Looks all good all around. Okay, then for that piece, inspect it, make sure that the solder's good. This looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and put the heat shrink over the solder joint and the red power cable. I always like to pull on them a little bit, just to make sure everything's good. That seems like it's pretty good. I don't have a lighter to usually do this with a lighter, but I don't have one with me right now. Gonna actually go get one. Be right back. Okay, couldn't find a decent lighter, so I have this like torch one, and it hardly ever works. So just like that, just heat up the heat shrink a little bit, and protects your connection. Make sure that it's got basically a good seal, so it's not grounding out on anything. Now for the ground wire. I'm going to zoom you out a little bit so you can see a little better. The ground wire we're doing a little bit different. We want to take our magnet, which I guess I'm just going to call it a magnet switch for all intents and purposes. I'm going to take the heat shrink, slide it over one wire on the circuit, and connect this to the ground of the power supply. And again, it's pretty basic soldering. Just I like to try to flush them up and then wrap it around a little bit. Try and make sure it's flat, so when you slide a heat shrink over it, it doesn't get hung up on any edges or anything. We're just going to hit it with our soldering iron. Try to get a little bit of soldering iron on the tip and grease the wire. I never try to keep the iron on the wire for very long because it'll melt some of the insulation and it can get down further down in the wire and cause issues. So again, I'm no expert, but I try to make sure that I don't keep the soldering iron on there very long. I usually try to get a little coating underneath, make sure that it's in good connection. Give it a little bit of a tug. That's secure, and then slide our heat shrink right over that guy. Hopefully this fits okay. It's always usually a tight squeeze with all the solder on it. And that's what it's giving me right now, is a little bit of a hard time. Ah, there we go. Okay, heat shrink that down. I prefer a normal lighter, but this thing's like a blowtorch. But it does the job. That'll just heat shrink right down. The other end of our ground wire, we want to connect to the LED strip. So again, basic soldering here. Let me pull this out. Just gonna hold the ground wire. These little things are kind of helpful. I think they're called helping hands, and they're pretty helpful when soldering small stuff like this. Don't forget to grab another heat shrink sleeve. Give it a decent cut. Slide it on her end here, and clamp her back in. Same concept. Just get the solder wrapped around there a little bit, so it stays, or not the solder, but the wire. Just so it's touching enough to hold still while you try to solder it. And again, same thing. Probably getting boring watching me solder stuff, but give it a second to cool down. pretty good. Do, you know, your check to make sure the wires are secure. Give it a little tug. If they're holding together good, they should be good. Keep in mind, these wires aren't really going to be moving in the case. They're going to be stationary for the most part. You're going to kind of hide them off when you're actually in the gun case. I got a little blob of solder here that I need to take down. So I'm going to do that real quick. There we go. Let's thin it out. Sometimes you have to iron it out a little bit. I call it ironing out, but just basically flatten out any solder that's popping up so you can slide the sleeve over like so. Same thing. Cook this baby. Protect the connection. So to recap what we've done, we have our power supply. Positive wire goes to positive. Negative wire of the power supply goes into our magnetic switch, which is, this is the one end, the other end's already on the safe, you'll see that later. And then the other end of our magnetic switch goes into the LED strip. So from here, I'm going to go to the gun safe, tidy up the wiring a little bit. And I'm actually going to show you on these LEDs because I'm not going to use all 16 foot. These are cuttable. There's a little tiny strip that is safe to cut. And I'm going to end up cutting this LED strip into probably like 4 or 5 segments. So I'm going to try and show you on the camera. Hopefully I can get it to focus. And I probably can't get it to focus. Let me try something here. Okay. On the LEDs, you see that little line between the positive and negative? You can cut right there, and then you can solder a wire to the positive and negative to jump to another wire. So basically, with these 16-foot strips, oops, sorry, we're out of focus again. Oh, anyways, I think you saw it clear before. Here we go. With these 16-foot strips, you can cut and splice your own size wire, which is very cool for any project. You can actually run the power and ground wire behind something so you don't see it. I thought about running these LEDs behind the inside of my safe because it's carpeted, but for one, I know the power supply can't handle powering all 16 foot, and two, I probably need like 8 or 10 foot max. So there's no sense in wasting them. I can use them for another project some other day. But anyways, I'm going to go to the safe and I'm going to get some power going to these guys, and I will show you how to jump between wires before the video's over. Okay? Alright. Okay, this is the testing phase. These magnetic sensors are very picky, and it takes a very long time to get them in place. As you can see, I'm going to open the safe, and I actually ran the one end of the LEDs out the back of the safe so I could see if my magnetic switch is working. So let me open the safe and they should go on, which they did. And in here, basically a ball of light, obviously. I haven't hooked them up yet. But here's the magnet on the inside. I actually used Gorilla Glue on it to keep it sturdy on there, because you don't want these moving. They're a real pain in the ass to get set. And I have my upper sensor all the way, if you can even see it, right up there in the corner. And that was, I basically Gorilla Glued the first one onto the safe without any wires, that magnet, and then this one I kind of positioned, and it took forever to get it in the right position to kick in and out. So I'm actually gonna, a little bit later, I'll put the camera in the safe and close it so you can kind of see how perfectly close they have to be, but it's really close, probably within like a 1/4 inch. It's a real pain in the ass. But anyways, I'm gonna shut the safe now and the light should go off, which they do. and then safe is in the lock position. I'm wiggling it. It has a little bit of play in it. It's a cheap safe, but a little bit of play, but the lights aren't coming back on, which is good. So I'm going to let this Gorilla Glue set, and that should hold it in place. These magnet sensors, they're a real pain in the butt, and they give you this 3M tape, but it's not that sticky, especially one sticking on cold steel. So I recommend you Gorilla Glue it or super glue it, something. I would have super glued, but I couldn't find it, and I had Gorilla Glue lying around, so it's just a pain. It takes a while to line them up, but once you get it in place, I actually use like blue painter's tape to mark it, because I soldered it after I actually placed it on the safe and then needed a mark to go off of. But once you get it in place, it works good. The safe shuts, the lights go off, and that's the idea behind it. I'm gonna get back to work here, keep working on wiring everything else up. Okay, so one of the ways I've been splicing these clips together, because I found it's very difficult to solder wires to the little connections right here. Let me zoom out and back in. Where my thumb is, there's a plus and minus, and it's a pain in the ass to solder a wire to there, especially if you're working in a tight space. So I actually had got these with my order. These have electrical tape on one end, but they're basically clips. And how it works is you just simply put this LED strip in here, like so. Slide it in there, and then clip down. Now the other problem I noticed with these double LED strips, where you basically have 600 instead of 300, this LED right here is always in the way. So I've had to basically solder and remove that LED. You just take a soldering iron to the sides of it and pop it right off. And then that solves the problem, and this little plastic thing closes. The other thing I've actually been doing is I've actually been splicing a wire between these two connectors, if you can see. It's very simple, just tack it on there with a soldering iron. You know, red positive, black negative. Tack it right on there. I put electrical tape over it just to make sure that it's, you know, not going to waddle out, or it's not going to ground out on the metal casing on my safe or anything. And then I leave these ends open with the clips, and I just clip them to my two wires, or to my two strips of LEDs in the safe. And the reason I am doing these little jumper cables, I guess I'm going to call them, is because these LED strips, if you try to turn them like a U-turn, they are extremely difficult to turn, because they sit flat, but you can't really turn them, just because of the nature of the strip. It doesn't bend. Like, I can't turn this. I could crack it in half, but it's not possible to turn. So I have these little jumper strips I put on, and then make a U-turn, and then clip it again, and also, you know, move it to a different part of the safe, wherever it may be. But that's how I've been splicing the LED strips together. Pretty simple system. I got these for like, I don't know, $5 for 10 of them, and I got them just in case I would need them, and it turns out I did. So these are good little things to have. They just give you a little bit of an extra problem when you have the double LED strips that have 600, because there's an LED right in the way every splice. So a little pain in the butt, but got around it, and that's that. Okay, everything's finally done. I turned off the light so you can kind of see what it looks like inside, with the white LEDs. I didn't like the bottom right panel just because that's where I keep my surge protector and whatnot. I also installed a dehumidifier, which you can see right there. Gets mildly hot, so I'm not too worried about it. basically everything's just as hidden as possible. A lot of the LEDs I had to run what I call my jumper cable that you saw to the actual LED set itself, and I kind of just put them in inconspicuous areas. So there's the one up top. I got a line there, a line in there and around, one up above that section and one up above that section. And that's basically it. I just did my best to hide the wires. The only wire I can actually see that's visible is this wire, which is from the magnetic switch. I mounted the power supply there, just kind of wherever it was out of the way and off the ground. It doesn't get too hot, so you don't have to worry too much about it. What else? That's pretty much it. I have to still do a final test, which is obviously to check and make sure the switch is working. I did it several times throughout setting and building everything up. So I guess I just have to test that, and everything else is good. And if I ever need to add any other accessories or whatever, I have a surge in here at the bottom. I only have really one big rifle, so I don't need to have any more storage really. And even though this is a 14 gun case, I doubt it can fit even 2 with my AR in here. So but yeah, I'm gonna close you guys in here so I can actually test out one final time to make sure that the switch is working. And I'm really gonna quickly show you where I have both of them. The main is there. It's on, there's no switch to this, so you can basically put it wherever you want. There's no wires. I put it on there with Gorilla Glue, like I said. And the other one is up here in the corner. And when those two meet or get close to each other, everything should shut off, which is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping this little layer of Gorilla Glue I put here to kind of strengthen it, I'm hoping that doesn't come or interfere with the magnetic, but it should be okay. So, one final test. I'm going to stick you in the safe, shut it, make sure all the lights shut off, and then I know I'm good to go. Kind of hoping that worked. I didn't get to see it, but hopefully it did. And if it did, I did the job right, and I'm done. Alright, take care, and hope this helped you out.